CBG is a cannabinoid that you might not have heard of, but it's actually one of the most promising cannabinoids for wellness. Now, while THC and CBD usually get most of the spotlight, CBG is starting to gain traction in the wellness world, and for good reasons. Now, this cannabinoid has a lot of wellness applications that align perfectly with intentional consumption, and that's what we're going to be exploring today in this video. More and more researchers and consumers are showing interest in CBG because of its potential therapeutic benefits. Now, it seems to have anti-inflammatory effects, provides relief from anxiety, and it helps enhance focus. And these are all outcomes that wellness-minded folks are often looking for. So let's take a look and see why CBG might be the next big thing in intentional cannabis use. Now, THC and CBD usually get most of the attention, but did you know there are actually over 100 different cannabinoids in the cannabis plant? Each one has its own unique set of benefits. Now, CBG really stands out because of how it works in our bodies. It interacts with the receptors in your endocannabinoid system in ways that neither THC nor CBD can. And that's why it's so important to understand the full range of cannabinoids, especially if you're using cannabis intentionally for your own health and wellness. Now, CBG has a distinct interaction with our endocannabinoid system. It connects with our body differently compared to both THC and CBD. I know I talk about this in just about every video, but just as a quick refresher, the endocannabinoid system is the part of your body that helps facilitate communication between different body systems. It keeps everything balanced or in homeostasis. That's its job. Your different body systems don't speak the same language, so the endocannabinoid system facilitates communication between them so that they can talk to each other. That's how it keeps your body balanced. Now, CBG works with both your CB1 and CB2 receptors, just like THC does. But it also has a blocking effect similar to CBD. If you think about it as sort of a locking mechanism, you can imagine your endocannabinoid receptors as the locks on a padlock. Now, THC is like a key that fits into the padlock, turns, and sends signals, so other things start happening here on the other side. CBD, on the other hand, is like if I were to take a candle that's been lit and there's wax coming off the candle, and then I pour the wax into the locking mechanism of the padlock, and then I let it dry or cool, and then I let it cool down. Then if I try to insert my THC or something else into the locking mechanism, it no longer works. I can't get the key in anymore, right? So in the same way that THC sends signals through the locking mechanism, through your receptors, CBG does that too. And in the same way that CBD actively blocks signals from going through your receptors, CBG can also act in the same way. So CBG is different than both THC and CBD in the way that it works. Now, this means that it could play a really important role in a bunch of different things, like addressing mental health, reducing inflammation, and keeping your brain safe and healthy. Plus, CBG is non-intoxicating, so that makes it a great option for people who want the benefits of cannabis, but don't want the psychoactive effects of THC. So if you're using cannabis for wellness, it's really time to understand the bigger picture, and that includes CBG. So this video is all about how CBG can be part of your wellness toolkit. And there's still plenty of research that's ongoing, but we do have some current studies that show its potential for anxiety relief, pain management, focus, and even sleep. So we're going to explore what CBG actually is, how it's formed in the cannabis plant, some of its benefits, and how you might use it effectively alongside CBD and THC. We'll also go over some safety tips, dosing information, and practical ways that you can incorporate CBG into your daily wellness routine. It can be easy to overlook cannabinoids like CBG, especially when the market is so intensely focused on THC and CBD. And sometimes it seems like those are literally the only two cannabinoids that people even know about. But the truth is that cannabis is much more than just getting high or even relaxing. Within the plant are compounds that could genuinely improve your well-being. So if you're ready to learn more, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like and share this video, and let me know of any questions that you have about CBG or other cannabinoids that you'd like to learn more about, okay? Your journey towards intentional wellness starts right here. So, what is CBG? Well, CBG, or cannabigerol, is one of the many chemical compounds called cannabinoids that are found in the cannabis plant. Now, you're already probably quite familiar with THC and CBD, but lesser known cannabinoids like CBG are starting to gain more attention among people who are looking for holistic wellness. CBG, or cannabigerol, is one of over 120 cannabinoids that are found in the cannabis plant. Now, you might hear people refer to it as the mother of all cannabinoids. Well, that's because CBG is actually the precursor to most of the other major cannabinoids like THC and CBD. Take a look at this chart. Now, CBG starts out as cannabigerolic acid, or CBGA. Now, this is the first cannabinoid acid that forms in the cannabis plant. Through a variety of enzymatic processes that we'll call biosynthesis, CBGA is converted into the three main cannabinoid precursors, THCA, CBDA, and CBCA. Then these acid forms are then converted through a process called decarboxylation into the familiar cannabinoids that we consume, THC, CBD, and CBC, which is another minor cannabinoid that I'll be making a video on soon so that you get an idea about how to use that one too. So as a result, though, because everything biosynthesizes down into the other cannabinoid acid forms, there's generally very little CBG that's left in a mature cannabis plant because it's all been used up to create the other cannabinoids. So this is why it's often called the mother of all cannabinoids, because it's a crucial building block in the creation of other cannabinoids. But now, growers are developing high CBG strains by stopping the conversion process or by harvesting the plant earlier in its growth cycle, before the CBG has had time to convert to THC, CBD, or other cannabinoids. So these high CBG strains provide a way to get more of this unique cannabinoid, especially if you're looking to consume through dried flower. So even though CBG is found in smaller quantities compared to THC or CBD, it's got some very distinct benefits, and it interacts with our body's receptors in a different way than either of those other two cannabinoids. This makes it a very promising option for a whole range of therapeutic uses, which we will be exploring further in this video. Now, unlike THC, CBG does not get you high. It's non-intoxicating. So that makes it a great option for people who are looking for therapeutic benefits without the psychoactive effects that are associated with THC. So in preparing for this video, I took a pretty deep dive into some of the research that is out there on CBG. Now, we don't have a ton of research yet, as is the case with most things cannabis because there was prohibition for so long. But there is definitely enough research that's been done to get a sense of what the potential benefits of CBG probably are. So I've been hearing a lot about it recently. I posted on my own personal social accounts, like, are you using CBG? How are you using it? I recommend it for people quite a bit of the time, and I consume it myself. And I definitely know others who also consume it. In fact, I want to tell you a story about my mom. And that really illustrates why I believe so strongly in CBG and in its benefits. So, since I was a little kid, my mom has dealt with inflammatory bowel disease, specifically ulcerative colitis. Now, she's been on prescription meds for it for as long as I can remember, like since I was a kid, for sure. She's taken a number of prescription medications to help her control her IBD. So, a few years ago, she called me up and told me that she'd been to the doctor, and her doctor informed her that her kidneys had deteriorated significantly as a result of all the prescription meds that she had taken, and that she was going to have to go on kidney dialysis. So my mother is a very strong woman, and she told me she did not accept this diagnosis, and she wasn't going to go along with it. So we talked about it quite a bit. You know, as a cannabis educator, she was looking for my opinion and my insights and thoughts about what she might do. And so she made a decision at that time to stop taking her prescriptions and start using CBD instead, right? So because of my work and because of our discussions, she knew that CBD was a powerful anti-inflammatory. So she decided that she was going to start using that to manage her colitis instead of using her prescription medications. So she managed all of her symptoms of colitis using just CBD for about a year. Now, because my husband is an edibles producer, he had access to CBG in one of its earliest available forms. So he made some gummies for my mom that had CBD and CBG in them, which I then took them to her, and she started taking them every day, just like a vitamin. So she takes around 20 milligrams of CBD and 20 milligrams of CBG every day. Well, this was a few years ago. It's been about 2 or 3 years now since this happened. And since she's been taking both CBG and CBD every day, her annual colonoscopies have all come back clean. She's had no red flags on any of her colonoscopies, and her kidney and her liver levels, her liver function levels, have all returned to normal, and none of her gut issues have persisted. So she's not on prescription meds anymore. Liver and kidney levels are back to normal. Her bowel disease does not present anymore in her body. And then when I asked her about sharing her story for this video, I was like, is it okay if I tell your story? She said yes. And also, my eyesight has improved since I started taking CBG every day, which I did not expect to hear that from her. So in addition to all of these anti-inflammatory effects that she's experienced, her eyesight has also gotten better. And we do know that one of the potential uses for CBG is reducing interocular pressure. So perhaps that is the mechanism by which her eyesight has gotten better. But now I'm going to take CBG every day like a vitamin and see if I don't have to wear contact lenses anymore. So that's what I'm going to do with that. But my mom takes CBG and CBD oil every day now instead of the gummy. She takes oil every day, just like a vitamin. And it has significantly improved the quality of her life. So this is just one story. This is my story. But it's a powerful example of how CBG can be part of someone's holistic wellness routine. Right? She also combines this with eating well, eating properly, eating healthy foods, exercising, right? Stress management. So it's not just about a panacea. Here's like a one-shot thing. You take it and your life gets better. But CBG is a really powerful tool when it's part of a holistic wellness routine. And that's one of the reasons I feel so strongly about its potential therapeutic benefits. It's because I've seen it work a miracle in my mom's life. So this story about my mom brings us to the first major benefit of CBG, and that's its anti-inflammatory effects. Inflammation is your body's natural response to injury or infection, and in most cases, it's a good response, right? It helps to protect your body. It keeps it safe, it supports healing. But when inflammation becomes chronic, it can contribute to a wide variety of health issues. Things like arthritis or inflammatory bowel disease and autoimmune disorders. Now, a lot of times, anti-inflammatory drugs like NSAIDs, like ibuprofen or Aleve, or stronger ones, are prescribed for long-term use to control inflammation. And these drugs are effective against inflammation, but they also come with a lot of potential side effects, especially with prolonged use. Things like bloating or stomach ulcers or digestive issues. So this is where CBG might come into play as a natural alternative. Gut disorders like Crohn's disease and colitis are commonly linked to inflammation. Now, just like in my mom's case, CBG shows significant potential for managing gut inflammation. Research that has been done on animals, on mice specifically, suggests that CBG can reduce inflammatory markers in GI tissue. So it can reduce inflammation in your gastrointestinal tissue. And this makes it a promising treatment for conditions like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. Now, this is really exciting for people who are suffering from these diseases because gut inflammation leads to a lot of painful symptoms, disrupted digestion, and an inability to absorb nutrients. It really impacts your quality of life, as you might imagine. But cannabinoids like CBG have demonstrated anti-inflammatory effects that can promote tissue recovery, potentially reversing the damage caused by inflammation in the gut. Now, another condition that's marked by chronic inflammation is arthritis. And arthritis, of course, affects millions of people around the world. It's very common. CBG interacts with receptors in the endocannabinoid system in a way that helps to regulate immune responses and inflammation. So this could be very helpful for people who are also suffering from arthritis because it can help reduce the inflammation. In one study that I came across, and I'll link to the studies in the description, but also if you hear me talk about a study and I don't link to it in the description, you can just leave a comment and I'll be more than happy to share the study with you. So in one study that I found, CBG was actually found to reduce the pain and swelling that was related to arthritis. So this is just one way that we see it has a lot of potential as a therapeutic tool for managing chronic inflammatory conditions, which become more and more common as we get older. Now, in addition to treating inflammation, CBG might also be effective in treating chronic pain. If you've ever had ongoing pain, like even just a toothache, you've gotten a little taste of what chronic pain is like. It significantly impacts your life, and it's really difficult to even engage in daily activities, like the things that you need to do just to take care of yourself when you're in pain all the time, right? So if you've had, a toothache or a muscle strain or something like that has given you acute pain, imagine having that all the time. And think about how challenging that would make just living your life and doing the things that you need to do just to get through life, right? It's relentless. And that can make it a big challenge to treat it effectively. It's not something that can just be managed for a short period of time. And to make matters worse, a lot of people have negative side effects from opioids or other pain medications that are often prescribed for chronic pain. So if you're experiencing symptoms and side effects from the pain medications, you're probably going to start looking for an alternative, a natural treatment, a lot like the people who want to avoid the NSAIDs to prevent stomach issues, right? Again, we're looking for something that is a natural product that can help us treat this chronic pain without all of the nasty side effects that sometimes come with the pharmaceuticals. Now, in one study that I read of CBG users, around 40% of the respondents said that they were using CBG specifically to manage their chronic pain. And among that 40%, 74% of them said that CBG was more effective than conventional medicine at treating their pain. Okay, let me say that again. 3/4 of the people who were using CBG to treat their chronic pain said it was more effective than conventional medicines at treating their pain, right? So this suggests that CBG might be a really powerful choice for people who are looking for natural relief options without relying on traditional pain-relieving medications. Now, one key advantage of CBG is that it's not addictive. Opioids are often used for treating chronic pain, and while they're highly effective, they're also highly addictive. The CBG, on the other hand, provides a non-addictive way to relieve pain. This makes it a safer alternative for people who want to avoid the risk of addiction for whatever reason. And in fact, CBG might be even better than THC or CBD for pain relief because of the unique way that it interacts with your body's endocannabinoid receptors. It offers a different mechanism of action than CBD or THC, which can provide more targeted pain relief for certain folks. So let's talk about CBG and its effects on mood regulation, specifically its impact on anxiety, depression, and stress. So mood disorders like anxiety and depression are some of the most common mental health challenges, and they affect, I don't know the numbers, but millions of people for sure are experiencing the symptoms of anxiety and depression, right? And when our mood regulation is off, it impacts pretty much everything in our lives. It impacts how we function day to day. It impacts our relationships. It even impacts our ability to be productive and to get done the things that we want to get done. And all of that really takes a toll on your quality of life. Now, a lot of people turn to pharmaceuticals for help. But to keep it real, the side effects of these medications can be pretty nasty, and they're not always effective either, right? You hear a lot about some of the nasty side effects from the prescription anti-anxiety or antidepressant drugs that people take, and they also impact your quality of life. Now, we also hear about CBD as a way to manage anxiety, stress, depression, and other emotional responses. And CBD definitely has its place. But CBD works indirectly with your endocannabinoid system. Remember, I showed you the image of wax into your receptor? It primarily reduces receptor activation. So it prevents your receptors from getting activated by blocking them, right? It sort of shuts down some of the communication between different body systems, which can definitely help, especially if you're dealing with too much information going on, but it might not always be the most effective solution for everyone. Now, CBG, on the other hand, works differently. It actually binds directly to the receptors, just like THC did, and it interacts more actively. So this offers the potential for more targeted relief for anxiety and stress. It works differently in the body than CBD, which is why it's worth trying out if you're exploring cannabis as a tool to manage your anxiety, your mood challenges, or your stress. Plus, CBG interacts with your receptors that are tied to norepinephrine release. Now, norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter that's closely tied to your stress response. CBG also interacts with your serotonin receptors, which can help stabilize your mood and reduce symptoms of both depression and anxiety. So CBG might have both anti-anxiety and antidepressant properties, which could make it more versatile than CBD in addressing a whole range of mood issues. In the same survey I talked about earlier, 51% of the CBG users said they were using CBG specifically to treat anxiety, so about half of them. Now, of them, 78% of those folks said that it was more effective than conventional medicine. That's pretty huge. 78% more effective than conventional medicine, okay? I also read another study that showed significant reductions in both anxiety and stress levels after consuming CBG as compared to a placebo. But the best part of that is that it does all of this without the intoxicating effects of THC, which means it's a great option for people who are sensitive to THC or who don't want to feel intoxicated, but are still looking for a natural way to manage their anxiety. Okay, let's take a look at these Druid impairment scores for CBG and THC. Now, what exactly is a Druid test? Well, it's a test that gives you a series of different tasks that measure your impairment levels. So whether it's from alcohol, cannabis, or even sleep deprivation, it measures how impaired you are in that moment, okay? It's part of a mobile app called Druid, which stands for Driving Under the Influence of Drugs. Now, this app is available on smartphones and tablets, and it's designed to evaluate both cognitive and motor impairment. So the idea here is to help determine if your performance is affected enough to be unsafe for things like driving or operating machinery, all right? So the tasks that you have to complete include stuff like tapping or balancing or following on-screen prompts. And then altogether, it measures your coordination and reaction time and determines if you're impaired or not. So based on how you do with these tasks, the app gives you an impairment score, which ranges from 1 to 100. And the higher the score, the more impaired you are, right? Makes sense. Now, take a look at this first chart. It's from a study on CBG. Now, we've got 3 different groups represented here. The baseline group, before anyone consumed anything, a group that consumed CBG, and a randomized placebo group. So that means that none of the participants knew if they were getting CBG or a placebo. Okay, so everybody assumed they were getting CBG. Now, if you look closely, you can see that the average impairment score stays pretty consistent across all 3 groups. There's a dotted line here, and this line represents the impairment threshold. So if you're under that line, you're not considered impaired. And you'll notice that pretty much everyone in all 3 groups is under that line, meaning that CBG did not lead to impairment. Now compare that to this second chart. which shows impairment scores for THC. Now here, we have people who consumed 10 milligrams or 25 milligrams of THC, either in an edible or by vaping dried bud. Now you can see there's a lot more impairment with THC. And as we'd expect, the more THC people consumed, the more impaired they became, regardless of the consumption method, if it was coming from an edible or from vaping. Now, this is a really big difference compared to the CBG graph, right? Unlike THC, CBG showed no signs of impairing users, regardless of the dose. That means CBG is most likely not going to impair you when you consume it. So that makes it a much better choice if you need relief, but still want to stay clear-headed and functional. Now, another common application of cannabis is for sleep. And CBG appears to help with sleep disorders without causing intoxication for some people, right? That can be a problem for some people. If they're using THC for sleep, they get a little too intoxicated or a little too high with whatever THC they're using, and then it becomes even more challenging to sleep. So some consumers, it's very interesting because it speaks to the fact that cannabis is a unique plant that works with each of our unique bodies in the way that we need it to. So some consumers report that CBG provides more focus and upliftment, while others actually report that it helps them with sleep. So insomnia, of course, is an issue for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't want to rely on prescription sedatives or sleeping pills because of all of the side effects that they come with. So again, we're looking for natural solutions, right? People use melatonin, people use valerian, but cannabis, including CBG, has become a popular choice for tackling these sleep challenges because it offers help without the risks that are associated with THC, like over-intoxication or feeling groggy the next day. Back to the survey that I was talking about before, over 30% of respondents said they were using CBG to manage their insomnia or their disturbed sleep. Now, of those 30%, 73% of them reported that CBG was more effective for their insomnia than conventional sleep aids. Now, remember, this is real-world data from people who are actively using CBG for this purpose. So that means that a lot of people are choosing CBG as a non-intoxicating sleep aid over prescription medication. CBG's promise likely lies in the way that it interacts with your endocannabinoid receptors. It produces calming and relaxing effects that can help your body transition into sleep. Now, unlike THC, it doesn't cause psychoactive effects. So that makes it a better option for those who don't want to get too intoxicated or who struggle to sleep if they do. As well, CBG interacts with your serotonin receptors, which plays a role in regulating mood and anxiety, which are key factors that influence your sleep quality. It's all interconnected, right? It's all tied together. That's what holistic wellness looks at. The fact that it's not just about treating one symptom or one experience in your life and saying, okay, now we've treated the symptoms of this, it's making it all better. But in fact, it's about looking at your life from a holistic point of view, saying all of these different pieces impact me and contribute together to form my quality of life, right? So mood and anxiety, of course, are important parts of your sleep quality. It's all interconnected. Now, you could also, and I probably would, if I were using CBG for sleep, I would think about combining CBG with CBD and THC, because this mix is probably going to provide unique benefits. Now, CBD isn't generally considered to be a direct sleep aid, but it does have anti-inflammatory properties, which can be helpful if inflammation or chronic pain is affecting your sleep. THC can induce sleepiness, but it can also disrupt the REM sleep cycle, which is important for emotional health and mood regulation. So because of this, CBG may be a better choice for managing long-term sleep challenges. It offers a more restorative sleep experience without the negative impacts on REM sleep. So I would make my dosage of CBG the highest and then experiment with other amounts of THC and CBD to see what works best for me. Another benefit that CBG can provide is for brain health. So it's showing promising abilities to safeguard brain cells from damage. This is known as neuroprotection. It's also demonstrating potential in improving brain function, which is called neuromodulation. So these properties make CBG a promising neuroprotectant, which could be useful for conditions that involve nerve damage or brain degeneration, things like Huntington's disease, ALS, Parkinson's, or MS, multiple sclerosis. So CBG might help manage those conditions by supporting healthy nerve function and reducing inflammation in the nervous system. Now, I don't want to get too deep into the medical applications of CBG because this channel focuses on wellness, but suffice it to say that consuming CBG is certainly not going to hurt your brain, okay? Instead, it may actually provide protective benefits for your brain over the long term. Now, of course, there are some side effects that you need to be aware of, right? Like everything comes with drinking water comes with side effects. You're going to have to pee in 20 minutes, right? So it's important to be aware of the side effects of whatever you're doing. CBG is no exception. So let's talk about some of the potential side effects of CBG. Now, in the survey that we talked about earlier, the survey of people who were using CBG for various purposes, 44% of those people reported no adverse effects or side effects at all. All right, so close to half, 44%. Now, among those who did report side effects, around 17% experienced dry mouth and 9% reported dry eyes. So pretty similar symptoms to what you might get with THC or even CBD. Interestingly, 15% of participants reported sleepiness, which aligns with the group of people who find CBG particularly effective for sleep. Around 12% mentioned an increased appetite, which is another common side effect we see with cannabis consumption. And as for withdrawal, around 84% of participants reported no withdrawal symptoms when they stopped using CBG. The only withdrawal symptoms mentioned were some sleep difficulties, but it was only a few people in the study who reported having any sleep difficulties when they stopped consuming CBG, right? And if you've ever consumed something to help you modulate your mood before you go to sleep and you stop consuming that, you know, sometimes there's like some rebound anxiety about it where you're like, oh man, am I going to be able to sleep? Am I going to be able to get to sleep? And then you kind of keep yourself up. So that's likely part of the mechanism that we're seeing here. Now, you've probably heard me talk about the entourage effect before, either here on the channel or somewhere out in the real world. But the entourage effect refers to the idea that different cannabinoids, terpenes, and all the compounds found in the cannabis plant work together to enhance each other's therapeutic effects. Now, this is why a lot of people prefer whole plant medicine or a holistic approach when using cannabinoids, instead of just an isolated cannabinoid or just one cannabinoid or another. It's because the combined impact of all of these compounds is greater than the sum of their parts. Now, if you've ever tried an edible that's made with just THC distillate versus one that's made with hash rosin or another full spectrum input, you know the difference, right? The effects of many cannabinoids in combination are very different and often much more balanced compared to the effects of a single cannabinoid on its own. Now, CBG is considered a minor cannabinoid, but it plays a significant role in enhancing the effects of other major cannabinoids like CBD or THC. Now, let's talk about some specific combinations that you might want to try. First, let's talk about CBG and CBD. So CBG and CBD together can be really effective for a few outcomes, particularly anxiety relief. Both of them are non-intoxicating cannabinoids that interact with your body's receptors differently, which can make them very effective together for managing anxiety without any psychoactive effects. CBD influences your serotonin receptors, and CBG modulates your serotonin levels through different mechanisms. So this combination can create a more potent anti-anxiety effect. It can provide a better balanced mood, reduce stress, and give you a sense of calm that is greater than what either cannabinoid could have done alone. So when it comes to dosing, you'll probably want to start with around 10 to 20 milligrams of CBD combined with 10 to 20 milligrams of CBG. Take it once or twice a day to manage your anxiety. This should allow both cannabinoids to work together to provide calmness and relaxation without sedation. Now, CBG and CBD are also both strong anti-inflammatories. So using them together can reduce inflammation in the body, which is especially effective for gut disorders like colitis, like we mentioned before with my mom, or for conditions like arthritis and other inflammatory issues. Now, you can also think about using CBG and THC together for pain management and to enhance the effects of both. Now, both CBG and THC are effective for pain relief, but they work in complementary ways. THC activates the CB1 receptors in your brain. That's an endocannabinoid receptor in your brain, which affects your perception of pain. So it changes the way you perceive the pain in your body. While CBG actually reduces inflammation by binding with your CB2 receptors with a different endocannabinoid receptor in your body. So this combination together can be really helpful for chronic pain conditions and for reducing the overall pain that someone might feel. Now, another interesting use of combining THC and CBG together is to get higher and shift your perspective a bit more. So lately, I've been using THC and CBG together for this reason. So when I take just THC on its own, I often find myself getting really sleepy before I've even had a chance to enjoy being high or think about how I'm having a different perspective or think about things in a different way. Now, personally, I really enjoy consuming cannabis to alter my perspective, right? To see things differently or to think outside my usual patterns. So we already know that THC is the primary cannabinoid that's responsible for the psychoactive effects of cannabis, but CBG can actually enhance these effects without adding anxiety, sometimes even reducing the anxiety that can come with THC. So this combination, I found, deepens the experience of feeling altered, but it minimizes the negative side effects like anxiety or paranoia or sleepiness that higher doses of THC might bring. The high you get feels different from a typical THC edible. So I would recommend, of course, that you approach it with a bit of caution, right? Start low and go slow until you get a feel for how this particular mix or the ratio works for you. And then balancing the THC to CBG ratio can help you fine-tune the psychoactive effects and make the experience more comfortable. If you find yourself feeling too high, consider adding a little bit more CBG next time. And if you're looking for an even more elevated experience, you can try increasing the THC in your mix. Now, you can also combine CBG with CBN for sleep and relaxation, okay? Now, CBG isn't inherently sedative, but it does have calming effects. And for about 15% of consumers, it induces sleepiness. Now, on the other hand, CBN is well known for its sedative properties. CBN, if you'll remember from the video on sleep, is just degraded THC. So when THC is exposed to light, heat, or time, it degrades into CBN. Now, CBN is well known for its sedative properties. So combining CBG with CBN is a great way to perhaps achieve deep relaxation without experiencing an intense intoxication. You can get a little bit intoxicated from CBN, but not nearly as much as with THC. So if you're dealing with anxiety-induced insomnia, or you just want to unwind in the evenings without feeling overly sedated, using CBG and CBN together might be a really good choice. So for dosing these products, start with around 5 to 10 milligrams of CBG, along with 5 to 10 milligrams of CBN. Take it about a half an hour before bedtime and see how that works for you. You can always continue to adjust the ratios. If you find that it wasn't sleepy enough, add a bit more CBN. If perhaps it was a little too sleepy, you can maybe try a little bit more CBG next time, right? This is just a place to start. Now, there are a few important things that you really want to keep in mind when you're combining cannabinoids. So first, remember that everyone's endocannabinoid system is unique, right? The purpose of the endocannabinoid system is to maintain balance in your body. And what everyone needs to be balanced is totally different from what anyone else needs to be balanced. So that means that people are going to respond differently to different combinations of cannabinoids. Just because I've mentioned how something works here today for me does not mean that it will work the same way for you. So that's why it's crucial to experiment cautiously and adjust your dosages gradually to figure out what works best for you. Secondly, keep track of your experiences. Like, seriously, keep a journal of the different cannabinoid combinations you try, the dosages, and the effects you notice. By tracking these individual experiences, you'll be able to make more informed decisions and get a better sense of how CBG, combined with other cannabinoids, affects things like your anxiety, your pain, your sleep, or other issues. And of course, if you're totally new to cannabis, or if you're combining cannabinoids for a specific medical reason, it's always a good idea to speak with a cannabis healthcare professional. They're there to help ensure that you're using safe combinations, especially when it involves THC and other cannabinoids. Plus, if you're taking any prescription medications, it's important to check with a cannabis-aware pharmacist, doctor, or medical educator, because cannabis can interact with certain prescriptions and potentially make them less effective. So you definitely want to have that conversation with a prescriber or someone who's familiar with the drugs that you're taking and how cannabis can impact them if you're taking prescription medications. There are different forms of CBG available, and what you can find is going to depend on where you live and the laws in your location. So knowing about the different formats CBG comes in can help you choose the one that suits your needs and your preferences the best. Oils are a popular way to consume CBG because they allow for very precise dosing without adding extra calories or sugars like you might get from an edible. Now, oils are great for those who want customizable dosing or who want to feel the effects without committing to an edible. Especially if you're planning to take CBG every day, like a vitamin, you might prefer an oil or even a capsule, something that you can easily include with your daily vitamins at the same time each day. Now, edibles are, of course, another option. They're usually tasty, they're pretty discreet, and the effects tend to last longer, even more so than oils, which can be really beneficial for someone who's managing chronic conditions like pain or anxiety. But with both oils and edibles, please keep in mind that it can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours or sometimes even longer for the effects to kick in. So these forms are better suited for people who are looking for longer-term ongoing relief rather than immediate effects. Now, you can also get dried flower that's high in CBG. It's less common, but there are strains that have been specifically bred to be high in CBG, and they're harvested earlier in the growth cycle, so that maintains a higher CBG percentage rather than letting it all convert to THC or CBD. You can vaporize or smoke dried CBG flower for quick effects, but keep in mind that dried flower is likely going to contain other cannabinoids and terpenes, which will give you a more full spectrum experience compared to isolated cannabinoids in oils or edibles. Dried flower is more suitable for experienced consumers who know how to dose by smoking or vaporizing and are looking for quick effects. So one of the advantages of inhalation is that the effects come on very quickly, so you can immediately gauge if you've reached your desired outcome or if you need a little bit more to get there. You can also find topicals that include CBG, which can be useful for targeted relief, especially for pain or for inflammation. Now, these topicals are often combined with other cannabinoids like CBD and or THC, as it's rare to find a topical with CBG only. Now, these products can be applied directly to sore muscles, to joints, to inflamed areas, and they can provide localized relief in that case. Now, one of the great things about topicals is that even if they contain THC, they're not going to get you high or cause any psychoactive effects because the cannabinoids do not enter the bloodstream. They stay localized in the tissue where you applied them. So this makes topicals a fantastic option for people who want the therapeutic benefits of cannabinoid, but don't want any of the systemic effects. They don't want to feel altered in any way. Now, when you're figuring out the dosage for CBG, the best approach is to start low and go slow. If you're new to CBG, start with a lower dose. Something around 5 to 10 milligrams per dose is usually a good beginning point. And from there, you can gradually increase your dosage by 5 to 10 milligrams until you get the effects that you're looking for. So please make sure that you're patient between doses because CBG's onset time can vary from person to person, right? Every person's endocannabinoid system is different. It is unique to them in that moment. So it's important to give yourself enough time to really gauge the effects before deciding to take more. And keep in mind that everyone's response to cannabinoids is unique, but also your responses can change over time. So the right dosage might vary from one day to the next, depending on how your body is feeling or what's going on in your life. That's why I always recommend keeping a journal. Track your dosage, timing, and effects. It's the best way to figure out what works for your individual needs. I've got a free intentional consumption journal template available in the description, so please feel free to download it and use it to keep track of your consumption. Now, recent clinical studies have found that 10 milligrams of CBG might not be enough for effective results. So some of the newer studies have actually moved towards doses around 50 milligrams taken twice a day for conditions like anxiety or inflammation. So keep this in mind as you experiment because you might need to increase your dosage over time to achieve your desired effects. So stay open to adjusting as needed. But since CBG is non-intoxicating, unlike THC, you can pretty safely experiment with your dosage without worrying about feeling too high or impaired. And you could also combine CBG with CBD for even more therapeutic effects. But if you're new to cannabis, please use caution when combining CBG with THC because THC can amplify the effects and it may result in intoxication. So if you're not familiar with the intoxication headspace, please proceed slowly and with caution so that you don't overconsume and have a very overwhelming and uncomfortable time. Using CBG as part of your wellness routine can help maintain consistent levels in your body, offering ongoing support, particularly for chronic issues like anxiety, inflammation, gut disorders, or pain management. Think of it like a vitamin, right? Something that you take every day to support your overall health. And unlike THC, CBG won't impair cognitive function. So it's easy to incorporate it into your daily activities without worrying about feeling high. In fact, it can enhance those activities, like staying focused at work or feeling more at ease. Now, there are many ways you could incorporate CBG into your routine. You can use a CBG oil in the morning to help with focus, or take CBG edibles at night to ease into sleep. If you prefer an inhalation method, you could smoke a CBG-rich joint in the afternoon when you feel your energy and motivation levels starting to dip. So think of integrating CBG as part of a broader wellness approach that includes other supportive activities like meditation, like exercise, like a healthy diet. It's important, again, not to think of CBG or any cannabinoid as a cure-all, but rather as a helpful tool that supports a holistic lifestyle. Now, depending on where you live, you might have more or fewer reputable sources for purchasing CBG. But in general, you're going to want to look for products that have been third-party lab tested to ensure their purity and their potency. So look for a certificate of analysis or a COA on the website of the company that you're purchasing from or on the dispensary's website that you're purchasing from. Now, the COA is going to confirm the cannabinoid content and it will check for contaminants. So you know you're getting exactly what you paid for and you know it's a safe product to consume. It's always a good idea to take a look at the COAs whenever they're available. I just make a practice out of it. If there's a COA available, I'll take a look at it, make sure the numbers make sense, make sure things match up the way they should, and then I feel more confident in purchasing that product from whomever I'm buying it from. We've covered a lot of information about CBG in this video, and I really hope that it was helpful and it serves as a resource for you moving forward. So if you know anyone who might be struggling with some of the issues we discussed here today, whether it's anxiety or depression or inflammation or pain or mood management or something else, and you feel they might benefit from using cannabis, please feel free to share this video with them so that they can learn about the potential of CBG too. And if you found this content helpful, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on upcoming videos about other cannabinoids and how you can use them for wellness. If you're specifically looking for ways to use cannabis to help with anxiety, I've got another video for you, and you can click right here to watch it. And of course, I'd love to hear from you. So please leave a comment below if you have questions about this video, questions about CBG or any of the other cannabis compounds, or share your experiences with CBG. How have you been using it? How has it helped you, or how has it not helped you? The more we can learn through each other's experiences, the better we'll all be at using CBG effectively as a tool in our own wellness journeys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.